Alright everyone, Cowboy Trades here, welcome back to the channel. So I just wanted to provide a super quick update on Bitcoin to tie us over until our next main Bitcoin video. And this is going to be on the subject of, is this the final capitulation? I've picked out just a few super quick charts. Let's dive into this now. Yesterday we were talking about, will Bitcoin bottom on this date? We looked at a range of perspectives, and according to the 4-year cycle, we should have already bottomed like today or this week. I personally think that it's going to extend by at least 100 days because the cycle that we're in right now is not the same as the cycle that we're in back in this cycle and back in this cycle. We've got more bearish news, we've got capitulations all over, exchanges going bust, the economy's looking pretty rough, but nonetheless, is this the final capitulation? I do believe this is the final capitulation. That doesn't mean I think the bottom's in. It means that I really think that we're in this type of situation. I think we're in this type of situation. I don't think we're up here. I don't think we're up here either. I think we're coming down, and within the next 100 days or so, I'll talk about why 100 days specifically, I think we're going to be bottoming. Now, I just want to show you this first chart. As you can see, we're kind of in this growth curve that we're still winding up in. Now, I've drawn this from a conservative bet. You can see that this growth curve actually says that 12,000 should be round about the lower bound where we should be bottoming. But I do want to highlight, be very careful if you are listening to people's perspectives when you are looking at these growth curves, because they can be very ambiguous. And if I was, if I had a bullish bias, for example, I could realign this like this, and I could draw this through candle body closes, and I could say, hey, this line of best fit, says that we've already pretty much bottomed. I'm, as you know, a conservative trader. I've looked at both perspectives, and I'm going to put it right in the middle because I think that's the right thing to do. Also, if I had a bearish bias and I was trying to, further convince you that things were more bearish than they are, or, not necessarily that they're more bearish than they are, I could do something like this and draw from the lows, and then all of a sudden, that 14,000 has gone down to like 9,000 or so. So once again, I've drawn this from a conservative bet, but nonetheless, this range that we're in right now really does look like we are going to be coming down to the final capitulation. And if we tie this in with something like a Bitcoin fear and greed index, once again, this is saying that we're in capitulation territory. Fear. There's tons of fear right now. And when there's the most fear in the markets, you're normally coming down to these bottoms. Once again, this does not mean I think the bottom is in. I think Bitcoin's going down to 14,000. I think it's very, very likely right now that, especially with all this drama, especially if more exchanges go bust, I feel like 12K is definitely a given at this point. But nonetheless, whether we go down to 12K, whether we go down to 10K, the bear market, in my opinion, is pretty much over. And once again, I don't think the bottom is in, but I think we're getting very, very close to these ranges. And I do also want to say, from when this bull run really started kicking off, when we started, just getting ready to break above the all-time high round about, this 16K, 17K, and then breaking above 20K, everyone was so greedy. And, obviously, if you were greedy while it was running up and you took profits, nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But if you were greedy on the way down and, you were buying in this range, and 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 this range, now, as you come down to this final capitulation zone, I just wanted to highlight, this is really not the time that you should be panicking. This is the time where you should have had a plan that you've been able to reflect on for the past couple of months, and you should already have, DCA plans at certain ranges, which really shouldn't be affected by other people's opinions. Like I said, my DCA ranges have more or less stayed the same for about 6 months now. Now, some other thing that is quite interesting, I have highlighted as well, I do not think we're in 2018. These charts do look very, very different, but nonetheless, the one thing that does look very similar was the fact that we were kind of holding this last floor range. And I talked about, the psychology in the markets being very, very simple in some of my most recent videos. And you can see as well, these final capitulations, even though, the charts definitely look different macro, we had a different run up, a different consolidation, almost everything about these is different. I do think in terms of, this final capitulation we're in, there are definitely some similarities. And if we kind of draw out some previous ranges that we got stuck at before the final run up, you can see, when we were in this bull run in 2015 up to 2017, you had many times where you found resistance, broke down, you came back down, back tested at support, and that is when you're allowed to keep on ping-ponging between these ranges. And in the final range, you can see we ran up, found resistance at this zone, broke back down, found resistance, broke back down, flipped above it, found resistance here, broke back down, and found support where we previously had resistance. So this was resistance, flip support. And then when we went up on this final capitulation, this kind of final consolidation range where we were stuck previously as resistance and we had to trade here for a while before the final blow off top, is when you drag this out, this ended up being the zone that we actually finally capitulated in and bottomed in. And even if you look at, you know, the 2020 capitulation, you know, there's an argument to be made as well. You know, there's a candle body close literally right down here, 3,600, and we came down to about 3,800. So you can see this final consolidation range ended up being the bottom. Now, you can also see it after the 2018 bear coming into 2019. You can see this zone here between the ranges of 14,000. You know, it starts up here at 14, but really the zone that I'm looking at is between 12,500 down to about 9,500. Once again, not saying that we're going down to 9,500. I'm just highlighting this is where the consolidation zone is. As you can see over here, you know, we didn't quite hit the bottom of this consolidation zone, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't draw this out either. So you can see, you know, you got rejected, 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 you came back down, flipped this box of support, and once you did, boom, you went on a massive run to the upside. But let's drag this out. You know, when were we ready for the next bull run back in 2017, 2018? Well, we were ready for the next bull run when we finally found a range that we were stuck at for resistance, and we flipped it as support. We went on a blow off top. We didn't really come back and establish this as too much support until we came back down, flipped this range as support, broke back up, double bottomed, you know, retested this range of support, and then we were ready for another bull run. We were not ready for another bull run down here until we had successfully flipped this range as a previous resistance of support. And once again, you know, we did retest this very briefly. We didn't even retest the top over here. So, you know, even if you're very conservative, if you're more bullish than myself, coming down to about 14,000 seems like the most conservative bet at this moment in time. But nonetheless, whether you're more conservative than me, whether you've got the same opinion than me, or whether you're a little bit more bearish than me, it does seem like this final range, this final breakdown, final capitulation, I definitely think we're in it. You can also see this over on the Bitcoin drawdown from the all-time high in the pink bars. It just shows you, you know, when you're having these drastic drops, it's very nice to eyeball the percent drop down from the all-time high instead of the US dollar drop down. Now, we talked about this before, you know, we had like 94% drops in the first cycle. I don't really like to talk about the first cycle too much when I am analyzing these markets because I think it was so nascent back here that we shouldn't necessarily take... Well, we should take this with a large grain of salt because obviously markets won't move like this anymore. The next cycle, 2015, which I do start taking into consideration, we had an 85-86% drop. 2018, we had about an 84% drop. And at this moment in time, where are we from the high? If we come down to, you know, something very conservative like an 80% drop, we'd be coming down to one of these first ranges that we mentioned, you know, 14,000. And even if we come down for like an 82% drop, you know, more conservative than prior bear markets, you can see once again this 12.5 is showing up. If the economy is really in shambles, exchanges keep on getting worse, and we have a worse bear market than the previous one, which is a possibility, we could come down to this 10,000 level. So, you know, all signs kind of point, whether you think we bottom at, you know, 14, 16, 12 or 10, this is the final capitulation in my opinion. Now, in terms of another reason that could kick us into the next bull run, this is obviously, you know, when we finally have, or when we're finally getting prepped for that next Bitcoin block reward halving. This is in the next 534 days. It's definitely a ways away, but you can see the Bitcoin bull runs always start when we're in this dark blue range, which is approximately 400 to 300 days away from, you know, the start of the next halving. So very interestingly, for example, I kind of think we bottom around about February time. I've talked about why in my previous videos. I've looked at reasons in the stock market. I've, you know, many reasons. So check out my previous videos if you want to know why I think we bottom kind of, you know, slap in the middle Q1 of 2023. But for example, another 100 days to the side would put us in February, when I think we bottom, according to my stock market analysis, according to all the analysis I've been looking at, this is 100 days away. And if we come over to the stock to flow model, you know, we're only 134 days away until we should be starting to come into this dark blue territory in which we normally start kicking back up and start pricing in, you know, the next Bitcoin block halving reward. So that's really all I wanted to share for you for this video. Once again, you can be more bearish than me, you can have the same opinion than me, or you can be slightly more bullish than me, but whatever you think, this kind of really shows that we are in the final capitulation territory. So that's all I've got for this video. Just a quick update. Cowboy out. Peace.